to today's presentation. Is your accounts payable automation solution secured? We're so glad you can join us today. My name is Nancy Quello, and I'm with the marketing department at Marcum Technology, and I'll be your host for today's session. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items to cover. Next slide, please. Disclaimer. Marcum LLP and Marcum Technology LLC have prepared these materials as part of an educational program. The information contained herein is of a general nature and is not intended to address the circumstances of any particular individual, entity, or case. While every effort has been made to offer current and accurate information, errors can occur. Furthermore, laws and regulations referred to in this program may change over time and should be interpreted only in the light of particular circumstances. The information presented here should not be construed as legal, tax, accounting, or valuation advice. No one should act on such information without appropriate professional advice after a thorough examination of the particular situation. Now, logistics. Next slide, please. During today's presentation, you can submit questions to our presenters using the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom platform. They will get to as many questions as they can at the end of the webinar. We will also be emailing a copy of the slides and the link to the recordings to all the attendees post-event. If you would like to receive continuing professional education credits for CPAs for attending today's session, you will need to be active in the platform for at least 50 minutes and answer 3 polling questions that will appear on your screen at random times during the presentation. Each poll will be active for 1 minute, and please be sure to select your answer and submit your responses for tracking purposes. Also, please allow 24 to 48 hours for us to process the CPE credits. Now, without further ado, I will pass it along to Bulin Tran, Vice President of Financial Solutions at Marcum Tech. Bulin.
Thank you, Nancy. And I promise you those questions will be very easy. So welcome to our today's webinar. I'm Bulin Tran. Just a quick intro. I'm a VP in our financial solutions practice at Marcum Technology. I've been with the firm for a long time. I have over 25 years experience working with technology, specifically ERP systems and FP&A systems. Most of my career has been focused working with clients that are nonprofit in the non-for-profit industry. So that's a quick intro. Jitesh, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Jitesh Magdani. I have been with the firm for 5 years, mostly focusing on integrating AP solutions across multiple ERP systems and GL packages, and also do a good amount of ERP implementations with Bole in the financial services group.
Great. Next slide. All right. So today's learning objectives are recognize best practice when implementing AP automation with a focus on internal control. So today we're going to be talking about, the world of account payable automation and how do we secure them. We'll talk about classify the strategies for maximizing on AP automations with ERP such as Sage Intacct and Bill.com. Illustrate how companies can leverage modern AP system capabilities with a focus on security. So next slide, please. So with today's agenda, we have about 2 slides that talk about who we are, Marcum and Marcum Technology, what is accounts payable solution security, the benefit of securing AP solutions. We'll talk about security features, policies and procedures, making sure that you have, proper controls in your system. And then we're going to do a slide presentation with regards to Sage Intacct and Bill.com, specifically looking at some of the security around these 2 solutions. And then we'll wrap it up with Q&A. Next slide, please. So who is Marcum, Marcum Technology and Marcum LLP? So Marcum Technology is the is the technology arms of Marcum LLP, which is a CPA firm. We are a national firm supporting a vast number of industries, as you can see there. The Marcum Technology helps our clients effectively converge business and technology through the delivery of strategic consulting, enterprise solutions, cybersecurity, infrastructure, and automation. We are accelerating our clients' digital transformation and delivering to their customers a more personalized and seamless experience. Next slide, please. So within Marcum Tech, we have 5 pillars of services, as you can see there. We'll start with digital consulting. So digital consulting includes, as you can see, a number of services here, one of which is financial ERP solutions. And that's the practice that both Jitesh and I are part of. Within financial ERP solutions, we support a number of solutions. Actually, there's a total of 4, 2 of which are pure cloud-based solutions, and that is Sage Intacct and Acumatica. We also implement and support Dynamics GP and SL. In addition to the ERP systems, we also support FP&A, and that's financial planning and analysis. And the 2 solutions we support and implement there are Planful and Vanna. And then the next pillar we have is strategic consulting. This is where clients may need an assessment of the back office accounting and IT assessment performed. And then we've got cloud and infrastructure solutions, where we provide private cloud services, infrastructure support, and disaster recovery. The 4th, we have the managed IT services. This is where clients outsource their IT support, such as IT help desk support. And then finally, we've got cybersecurity and digital forensic, where we help our clients secure their business. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about the topic of our webinar today, which is security. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what area of security we're going to be focused on, because security is such a broad topic. And I have here the fraud triangle. I thought this would be a good place to start. So when we talk about fraud triangle, and you probably have seen this, there are 3 pillars in this triangle. You've got, of course, all 3 elements have to be there in order for fraud to happen. So the first item here is pressure. And that is, the financial or the emotional force sort of pushing us to want to do fraud, right? So there is that financial pressure. Then you've got rationalization. So rationalization is the person who's going to commit the fraud is providing some sort of a personal justification to say, this dishonest action is okay, meaning that, he or she is justifying that this is okay. Okay, so you've got the pressure to do it, and you've got sort of the self justification that you feel like this is an okay thing to do. Then the third also has to exist, which is the opportunity. So the opportunity has to be there, meaning that there is that the person can see that if I do these things, now this is the action plan. If I do these things, no one will know and I won't be caught. So if those 3 pieces are together, it's basically an ideal situation for fraud. Now, like I said, security is a big item. Fraud can come through both external and internal, meaning you can have someone from external sending, an email that goes to a fictitious, it's from a fictitious email address, so this is coming from external. And fraud can also happen within internal, meaning that, someone within the accounting department or someone within the organization committing that fraud. So for the purpose of this webinar, because we only have an hour, we're not going to go so much into cybersecurity fraud, meaning we're not going to be looking at, the cybersecurity, the external, threats that are coming into the organizations that resulted in a fraud. We'll touch upon it, some of the things that might come in from outside source. We'll touch upon that slightly, but the focus of our presentation is really on the accounts payable automation and securing that, and talking about some of the threats that we have seen, just based on as consultants, right? And so we've seen a lot of things. So we want to share some of those scenarios with you, but that's really our focus. So I just wanted to mention that. Next slide, please. So let's get to our first polling question. Polling question is, in 2022, that's last year, bank transfer or payment fraud resulted in how much amount lost? So there's 4 options there. Is it $500,000? Is it 750 million? Is it 1 billion? Or is it over 1 billion? So if you could just take a second and select a response, and then what we'll do is we're going to share that response to see where everyone is voted. Nancy, are we getting close?
Just a few more seconds before we hit the 1 minute mark, and we're officially at our 1 minute mark.
Because you know what the next slide is. The next slide is the results. All right. So majority, 64% says it's over 1 billion. Should we move to the next slide?
Yes.
That is the right answer. So the right answer is that in 2022, bank transfer or payment fraud resulted in a loss amounting to 1.59 billion. That's an astonishing number. It's just unbelievable. US dollars, and loss due to wire transfer, just wire transfer alone is 311K. I'm sorry, 311 million, 311 million just for wire transfer. So you can see that the highest is bank transfer or payment, which includes ACH, cryptocurrency, and then the third one is wire transfer. So these are just incredible numbers here that we're looking at. And the thing that some of the things that we hear is that especially within the accounting department, is that one of the things that we hear is so things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Well, we wire money to this particular organization, so this we're paying this sub-recipient and whatnot regularly, right? So when that comes, when you're dealing with large amounts, sometimes when you get an email coming in, asking for a change in the banking information, and you regularly pay this organization, right? And you are so swamped on the day-to-day activity, it happens, it does happen. So I think that, it's important to take certain measures, whether or not if you are engaged with a firm that helps you with cybersecurity, or, even within your department, maybe have some process in place that dictates if depending on the dollar amount or depending on of the circumstances, maybe secondary actions needs to be taken place, because it's just too easy when you're in the thick of the day-to-day operations and to for these things to happen. So secondary options may be that you might need to reach out to the vendors and and confirm, is this correct? Do you really are you really making those changes? And again, of course, that also depends on so the dollar amount that that's, but these are some of the things that you can that you might want to think about to tighten your security. Next slide, please.
So here's an example of what does a wire transfer information request change looks like, right? Somebody emails you urgent request. This is a common theme we have seen when a wire transfer fraud happens. It's always urgent, it's high priority, and it would have your CEO's name at the bottom of the email. That's what we have seen. So when you get an email like this, it is very important for you to stop, look at the email sender's information, make sure everything ties in. Usually they would just change the spelling by like 2 alphabets in the company name. So it is very hard to capture that change. So especially a wire transfer fraud is happening when they are trying to look at your social interaction in social media space. They all know who's your CEO, what's the name, or who's your CIO. All of these information is easily available just by Google search. So it's just a reminder of how you can get an email pop in your inbox, and out of urgency, you might react to it. And that's where the wire fraud initiates. It's basically they're looking at the social interactions of the company and then designing these emails. So that was an example of how an email would look like. There are other things also in the accounts payable security area where you can start with locking down your AP solution by role and responsibility. Are there enough roles designed? Does your AP solution have an option to design a role, or they are giving you a predefined box which you need to fit in? So there are solutions which offer that flexibility, and there are solutions which do not have that flexibility. And I'm going to go into some examples of this. Encourage accountability by two-person approval. So when some payment information changes, or if there is an account information change or enrollment of new vendors, how many people in the AP process can enroll new vendors? Have we thought about that, right? Are you talking to your internal staff of like the common frauds which you come across? Is somebody talking to the team or the users? How often they need to change their passwords? As simple as that. Does the solution integrate with your single sign-on option if your company uses that? These are questions which are discussed when we talk to you about having an AP solution. It is a lot easier to buy a solution and then create the process around it. And it is a different process when you are talking to us, because we have done this so many times over the period of years. And how do we ask those questions? How do we lay down those policies in place while we are assessing your solution. So those are things which you want to definitely think about. And these are some of the highlights. Does your existing AP solution, if you have any, is it patched? Does it require patches? Is it on a server which is secured? That is one of the options as well. Do you have a solution as a service where you don't need to do these patches? Who's holding that solution for you? Is it a SaaS-based solution, right? Are there personnel involved in securing your infrastructure? How often do you look at their compliance? Those are things which you want to look at when you're looking for a secure AP solution on premise or off premise. It is definitely something which you want to think about along these lines. And there should be always a couple of people involved from your IT and from your finance team. So a lot of times we have seen that not your IT team is involved every time when you're making these decisions. So we want to get rid of those silos and have all the parties in the same room when we are talking about these things. That brings us to the next question. How secured is your AP solution? So the options are pretty secured, somewhat secured, not secured, or not sure. Pretty secured is you know that there are compliance documentations which you have reviewed, or somebody in your organization has reviewed them. Somewhat secured, you know that it requires you to change your passwords periodically, or not secured. And if you're not sure, you can select the last option.
Again, we're going to wait just a few seconds for people to respond. We'll be curious to see the results of our poll. Hopefully, everyone is going to select pretty secure. And just a comment on what Jitesh was saying in the last slide about roles, user roles, and responsibility. I've been supporting ERP system my entire career, working on different ERP systems. Of course, the last 12, 13 years, accounting systems has moved to the cloud. But I will say whether it's on-prem, on cloud, all of these systems should have ability to set up user roles. All right,
Great.
well, that's great. That's great that a majority are saying that it's pretty secure or somewhat secure. And that's really what we're looking for. So
That's great.
Good results.
Great. So what are the benefits? Why should you have a secured solution, right? First of all, people who want to get unauthorized access will try to get unauthorized access to the bank. When they don't get to the bank, what do? Their next target is your ERP and your AP solution, right? They want to engineer different ways. There is a whole host of people who are their life focus is to get past these challenges, right? So there is definitely an incentive to have a secured solution. Some of those are you want to pass your audit checks, right? That's one of the top required solutions, benefits, which you definitely want to have. Securing your funds. If somebody is able to get into your AP solution and set themselves as a vendor with their own banking information, that's an unauthorized transaction which can go through, right? Enhanced audit trail. Does your solution have an option to look at who entered the bill, who approved the bill, when was it approved, and what policy was applied to that bill? So having those audit trail options is very important when you are designing policies. You want to nest multiple layers of approval policies where the person entering the bill, if they miss something, the person reviewing, probably the department head, catches something. If they miss something, then the last person approving the bill in the finance team uh, gets to know what was missed, and they can catch that. So having that multiple layers stacked on top of it, you're just trying to catch every possible error which could happen in from entering to payment processing, the whole life cycle. The more set of eyes are applied to the whole process, the less the chances are for something to be missed. Greater visibility is another crucial benefit, right? You want to know how many bills are queued, how many bills are in the queue for approval, who's sitting on those bills. Can there be a solution, an easy way to remind people when they are not acting on what they are supposed to do? So these are things which a secured AP solution should have when you're assessing a solution.
And Jitesh, one of the comment that our Fred Johnson, who heads our cybersecurity, had mentioned is that, you know, now it's actually easier to rob your ERP solution than it is to rob a bank. I never really thought of it that way. But in a way, that's what's happening, is that, you know, when there's a loophole and people see it, and, you know, and that, you know, it's just very easy for people to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're trying to get access to whatever system they can, right? That's the whole.
So we want to share with you an example, and this is a real example. You know, this happened the fall of last year, and I thought it was very relevant for this webinar. So we have a nonprofit organization that use Bill.com. The challenge is that the clerk that enters the AP invoices was also updating vendor payment information, and did not have, and this nonprofit did not have dual approval set up for information change. Bill.com provides dual authentication, which enables another person to approve the change. Additionally, the clerk manually sends out emails to notify the vendor that payment have been made. This is because the not-for-profit did not set up the vendor contact information in the Bill.com during the implementation phase. As a result of the lack of dual approval, the auditor made a comment in their audit management letter regarding this lack of control there. So, Jitesh, what was our recommendation?
Yeah, our recommendation was to have dual control enabled, right? Whenever there is vendor information changed, somebody needs to sign off on that change, and it is implemented system-wide, so we don't have to keep in mind or look for any information change. If the person has the authority to change the banking information for a vendor, that control will trigger automatically. So that is something which you can set and forget, and you know that it won't happen unless the second person signs off on it. So it's going back to that slide which I was mentioning. Are there enough checks and balances? This is one of an example of that check and balance. And then the solution for manually sending confirmation for the vendor payments. This reduces, if you have the right remittance confirmation email address set up in your vendor profile, it reduces the calls from the vendors. We haven't received our payment. Where is our payment? that question goes away, because there are AP solutions which gives you that vendor portal where vendors can go in and look at what they got paid for. So that was a solution which we implemented when this was brought up in the audit process.
Yeah, and when you're if you're not using an AP automation solution, if you're evaluating, these are some of the things to ask in the evaluation process. You know, how do we ensure that if there's changes, that there's a second authorization? Do you have that feature in place? You know,
Right.
And then also, if it has it, great. And then in the implementation, make sure you implement it, because it's, you know, sometimes
Right.
when you're in the implementation, you know, this is not your full-time job. You have a full-time job, and sometimes these things get missed, as what happened here in this scenario. So, you know, just, you know, making sure that, you know, that proper security is in place, you know, as you configure the system.
Right.
Next slide, please.
So our third question, what AP solution are you using today, if any? Your ERP solution, Bill.com is a widely used one, or any third party, or are you getting invoices by emails or by mail, and then you are keying them in? So those are the choices. I hope.
Or routing your email, or using email to route it for approval, right? So you're not really leveraging an AP solution. In a way, it's a little bit better than, let's say, walking down the hallway to get somebody's approval. You're emailing it, but it's not an automation, like a specific AP automation function. And a lot of ERP solutions have, as part of the core functionality, an AP automation component that, you know, sort of streamlines that process of getting invoices approved, or even payment approvals, not just an invoice authorization approval, but even payment approval. But not all ERP solutions do that. That's why you have third-party solutions. All right. Looks like it looks like we're very close between ERP and third-party solutions. So actually, I will say, if you total the Bill.com and third-party, it looks like majority is using third-party. That's great to see. And I think the differentiation between ERP and third-party, generally speaking, is that third-party AP automation tend to have a lot more functionality. That's what we see. But I always recommend clients that if you can leverage what's out of the box in your ERP solution, you should do that, right? And generally, out of box, you're already, you know, you've already been paying for it, or you've already paid for it, depending on what the ERP solution is. So leveraging the out of box is usually the first thing that you want to do. And then if it's not available, that's when you look at third-party solutions. And it looks like 18% is using email. So, you know, that will work only if you have a small amount of invoices. But when you have if you have a fairly large, you know, good size operation, that could be a lot of work.
Great. So how do you select the right automation, right? Is everybody who selected ERP and email for sure, you want to identify are your needs being met? Definitely, if you're getting invoices by email, you are spending a lot of time on processing those invoices. You might not think you are, but if you add up the amount of time from that email to paying it, when you look at it all together, it is a lot of time over the period of 1 year, if you add up all of that. So identify your present pain points. That's the first thing. which you want to think of that there is a problem, right? If you are getting emailed invoices or invoices by mail, identify the key internal AP accounting process, right? So what does your process look like today? Where do I want to see myself, right? How many people are involved? Are we sending folders from department to department, or somebody's coming in to sign the checks? Is that happening today? That's one of the key decisions which you want to think of. How long does each task take? If there are 2 people involved and it takes 5 minutes to review the whole invoice every time, if it's going to be the same invoice every time, do you need to have that review process? The systems are designed to pick up how it was coded last time, and it'll apply all of those business process rules when it's processing those bills. Who's responsible for processing all AP, right? Do you have enough segregation of duties? It comes back to that. Is the person enrolling the vendor also entering the invoices, also approving the invoices, and finally paying those invoices? So are there enough segregation in the workflow? That's important. And how often do you assess your security? Do you get your SOC reports every year, right? Those are some things which during your audit, they are going to ask you these things. How often do your passwords expire? Those are things which are going to come up. If you don't think about it, your auditor is definitely going to think about it. Do you know your compliance requirement? If you're using if you're getting funds from different sources, if you're handling any medical related information, right? Those are different compliances altogether. Some could be where you could have operations in Europe. Those have different compliance requirement. So a good example would be the GDPR compliance, the SOC reporting, or the HIPAA compliance. So these are things which we would speak to you when we are assessing what you're looking for and how we can guide you through all of these processes before you select an secure AP solution. Or if you have an existing solution and if you're not happy with it, we would come and talk to you about that as well. So it is important for us to also talk to you about, we do this for a living, right? We are looking at different AP solution. We are looking at the whole AP space, and we are constantly assessing what is the right fit for our clients. We have an array of solutions which we offer. We are not married to one solution and this is what we are going to sell you. So we have that level of experience because we have done work with different industries, for-profit, non-profit, healthcare, construction, you name it. We have publicly traded companies who we have implemented solutions for. So it is super important for us to understand what your need is and to get you the right solution which will solve your needs. Does your partner? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Jitesh, I think also the point here is while of course Marcum Tech has this experience, I think that more importantly is just getting the right partner, whoever that partner may be. That's what we wanted to make sure. So, obviously all of the bullets here are relevant in terms of finding that partner, but it is really important to have the right partner. And I think what a partner sometimes will do is that a lot of these partners have industry experience. They work with multiple solutions. They can help you navigate through this, because I mean, the world of AP solution is just so saturated, meaning there are just so many systems out there, right? And helping navigate through that, I think it's important.
Right. Great. So some of the implementation recommendations which we think you want to understand, the most important thing is it satisfying your needs, right? Is the tool doing what you need it to do? That's the first thing, right? Are there workflows set up? So in the implementation time, you want to test those workflows, right? So not just writing the workflows, but actually making sure that they are working the way they are supposed to. Is the security aspect of that has been addressed? Have you seen what the security looks like? Have you been provided with the SOC compliance reports when in the implementation process? And the last point, which is one of the most important ones, is what is your training plan? Are they going to support you? Is there enough material available out there for you to go in and access and in the right people with the right roles and answer all their questions and support them after the training? So those are things which you want to definitely think about, or you want to see in the implementation process of and secured AP solution.
So change management is actually a pet peeve of mine. I actually presented this in last week's webinar on ERP maximizing, how you can maximize your ERP solution. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but anytime you're bringing a new solution, there's usually a change that takes place, and how you manage the change really does impact, the how well the solution is implemented. It's one of the important factors of that. And it also touched upon, when you bring in a new solution, is how many people does this solution touch? Obviously, the more people it touches, the harder it is, to manage that change, because there's just more people you have to think about and how it impacts their day-to-day lives. But just a couple of comments here, management support versus approval. You want to make sure whatever systems that AP system that you're putting in, that you're getting the management support. And what that means, of course you're getting management approval, but it's really important to get that management support. And management support could involve the president or the executive director, or the chief operating officer. You want to have senior management, announcing how exciting that this new system is coming to play, how it is a game changer. So you want to make sure that they're showing their support for this project, and that's going to be able to get the people who are involved all excited and behind you on this project. You also, second bullet, also know important is get participation, meaning know your people. There are some people that might be that might push back, in terms of making this change to like automate your systems. And so if you do know these people, right, you want to make sure that you get them involved in this project. Maybe even get them to provide some feedback to you, as you go through the evaluation process. Early adopters training. So if you have people that you know who's going to support you, they're excited about this project, they've been talking about it, get those people trained up first so that they can tell their colleagues about how exciting this project is and how it's going to be a game changer in terms of how you are currently approving invoices and coding them and so forth. Sorry. And then finally, you want to make sure there is support. So you want to make sure that that there who to go to for support. People may have questions in terms of how things should be coded, or if they approve something and they want to call it back because there's some changes that they forgot to do, whatever that may be. You want to make sure that there is clear information of who they can go to for support. So that's really what I think some of the key points with change management. Next slide, please.
Great. Perfect. So I am going to go through two solutions here and talk about what user privileges can be given, how the roles are being created, and also look at like an AP workflow, payment approvals, and audit trails. So those are some of the things which I'm going to show in my presentation between the two tools right now. Just to give you some examples of what we have been talking about right now. Okay, so can you see my screen, Bullet? Yeah.
Yes. And what is
Great.
this solution?
This is bill.com, and here is an example of company-wide policies which can be set up, right? So if a bill is going to go through an approval policy, so there are two options. One is bill approval, and then there is a payment approval piece. So this is the bill approval piece where a policy can be written. For example, here, I am the approver. As soon as there is a bill which has line amount of $0 or more, I would be assigned as an first approver. This is the first layer of somebody looking at it after the bill is coded, right? There are no exceptions. Any bill which is created will have me as an approver, right? So you can set it and forget about it, and you know that it's going to have the approval. The second option here is this is a department based approval policy, where if the bill is above a certain dollar amount, and if it has the operations line, if the bill belongs to the operation department, there is a different approver. Troy, in this case, is going to be the approver for that. So there are flexibilities here where you can decide for each department, there could be a different approver. So here are some examples of that. If it's finance and administration, then I could select Bulin as an example for that approval. So this would be setting up approval policies. And then there is also audit trail of who coded, what was done. I assigned her for the operation. So there are things, every click along the way, you would know who created this policy and when was it approved. And this could be assigned to a specific person who can write and change the approvers in the system. And you also have an option here to replace the approvers. So if somebody is going, let's say Troy is going out on a vacation, and now I need to assign Bulin as an approver. So I can just do that and replace all the bills in the queue to that approver. So those are things which you want to think. Does your ERP or your AP solution provide that flexibility, right? This is going to be a solution or a system which is going to be active, and you want to make sure that it's agile enough to satisfy your needs when it's in use. So that was one example of bill.com. And then we spoke about the dual approval. So here is an option which is enabled in the tool where any vendor information changing would need to have a sign off of one additional person, which requires an additional step. So under dual control, you have an option to add. Here there are two people. Anytime a change in vendor's bank information happens, there will be a sign-off process. There could be a different control in place as well. Anytime there is a change in the role, if somebody tries to change the role, although they have the privilege, it might require a second sign-off by bullet. So that could be an example of updating a role. So that way, when your audit team comes and looks at these things, they are going to ask you for the access of your AP solution. And if these are enabled and set up correctly, then it's a good thing for AP security. That was an example of dual control. And then now I'm going to go into the Sage ERP solution, which also has an option where you can set up roles. And when you set up roles, you can enable specific modules for specific roles. For example, an AP clerk. That could be another role which could be created, and you can give that person just read-only access, and then they cannot pay bills, they cannot approve bills, they can list bills, they cannot print checks. So these are some of the granular permissions which can be turned on and off depending on the role. So that's one example of doing this. And then there is also the way we saw in bill.com, you also have an option to approve bills and approve payments. Payments is after a person has received the goods, they are approving the bill. That is an approval of confirmation of service or receipt of goods, right? And then you have the next process would be finance team. After that approval is met, the finance team can approve the bill if that bill is approved by the department head. So that is an example of how we can leverage the ERP solution to approve and make a payment.
Great. So
that brings us to the fourth question.
Yep. So we're gonna skip through the fourth questions. I know we're starting to get close to the hours. So let's click on to the next slide, please. So this really concludes our presentations. And for Q&A, can we bring up the PowerPoint? I think there was one more slide after that. We should have a slide for the upcoming events.
Yep.
And then our information. So really quick, if you've participated in our past webinar, or if you're on this webinar, you know that Marcum provides a number of educational webinars. We have two that are coming up. So the next one is on May 31st, is on Sage Intacct 2023 R2 release, what you should know. And this is our this is our recurring webinars. We have 4 of these a year for R1 through R4. And we go through some of the new functionality with the new release. So if you are a Sage Intacct user, or if you're interested to learn a little bit about what Sage Intacct is about, feel free to join us for this webinar. I will say this is more of a technical webinar, so you're not going to get an overview of Sage Intacct, but we go through specific functionality of Sage that are released with the R2. And then we have Stop Spending Painful Hours on Budgeting. So this is on June 28th. There's a lot of folks out there that are using Microsoft Excel for budgeting. And I think that's a great solution. Excels are very easy to use, but if you are, depending on the size of your organization, if you're larger organizations, and if you, not only are you doing budgeting, but you might be doing also forecasting, I think, leveraging a budget management solution would make a huge difference in terms of, getting rid of those painful hours of combining spreadsheets and letting the system do the work for you. So we will be going over budget management solutions. Specifically, we'll be looking at MARTA. So if you are available, feel free to join that presentation on the 28th. And you can find all of Marcum's webinars, not just these 2. Marcum provides a ton of educational webinars. Many of them are CP accredited, but you can register for that through our website, marcumevents.com. And I wanted to thank you everyone for attending this webinar. I wanted to thank Jitesh and Nancy as well. And we hope to see you in the future. So thank you so much. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Pauline, and thank you, Jitesh. And for those, I do see a few questions still coming through about CPE credits. So please just allow 24 to 48 hours for that certifications to come through. And of course, the requirements were to stay on for 50 minutes, to answer at least 3 of the polling questions. Yeah, and that should be all the requirements that are needed. Yes, the budgeting, I'm sorry, one more question came through. The budgeting event is not live on our website. However, we will be incorporating it into a much later date. If you want, you can drop your information into the chat, and we'll be sure to send out an invite to you once that event has become available. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.